Leader Jeffries, though, even with those tax credits, premiums are exploding. And they'll be exploding under Obamacare. They'll be exploding in private health care. I mean, at what point are we going to sit down and figure out a systemic approach that actually is sustainable? Because we're not in it now. And again, even with those tax credits, the Obamacare premiums explode. Even worse, private health care premiums explode. Denials of coverage multiplying. A lot of those denials coming reportedly from AI. This system is failing the American people, and it's only going to get worse. What are we going to do?
There's no doubt about that, Joe. We have a broken health care system, and unfortunately, Republicans have decided to break it even further. And this relates to things that go beyond their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Negotiating with lawmakers, and I've had personal talks with some Democrats. I can't tell you who they are. I just don't want to do that. It's not fair to them. About paying large amounts of dollars back to the people. You know, this was my idea. It came up during that. You know, oftentimes under times of stress, like the shutdown, you come up with great ideas that you wouldn't have thought of before. The insurance companies are making a fortune. Their stock is up over 1,000% over a short period of time. They are taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're not really putting it back, certainly not like they should. So when I see this, and when I've seen this over the last pretty short period of time, I said, why do we just pay this money directly to the people of our country and let them buy their own health insurance?
Boy. More Democrat crash outs to talk about, because Democrats are having a really rough week, okay? As then we got to talk about Hakeem Jeffries, who, again, is having a rough week, explaining the fact that one of his own, a black Democrat congresswoman from Florida, has been indicted for stealing $5 million in FEMA funds. The fact that his campaign solicited donations from Jeffrey Epstein. One of his other colleagues, Stacey Plaskett, she was not only soliciting donations from Jeffrey Epstein, but also texting with Jeffrey Epstein. Larry Summers, who's an Obama/Clinton guy, right? He has been stepping down from public commitments. I believe that he's been temporarily removed from his role at Harvard due to his relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, just all around not a good week for Democrats, right? Bad week. And the week gets even worse, okay? Because Hakeem Jeffries clearly is frustrated with the fact that things aren't going well for them. And that is going to show up in this interview on CNBC, as he's going to get called out on his BS, basically never answering questions, always trying to deflect back to Trump, back to Republicans, instead of answering a question directly. This guy never, ever answers a question directly. There's no point in interviewing this dude if he's not going to actually answer the questions in good faith. And I think this CNBC anchor got frustrated because, again, that is how these interviews usually go with this clown. So I want to react to it because they are talking about the Obamacare subsidies that Democrats claim they shut down the government to force Republicans to extend, even though it didn't work, right? So they're continuing their negotiations, and that is what they're talking about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
The idea of saying that this is a 3-year extension instead of a 1 or even 2-year extension has any potential Republicans saying, forget it, this is dead on arrival. That's the opinion of Representative Don Bacon. He's a Republican from Nebraska who has been working with the idea of potentially extending for 2 years. But 3 years, they say, is dead on arrival. So if this is something that you want to satiate, if you want to get done, you are going to need at least some Republicans to come over. Why not start with a 1-year extension or potentially even a 2-year extension?
Well, let me say this. A 1-year extension is dead on arrival because that means that Democrats will use this in the midterms the same way that they just did for these off-year elections. 3 years is dead on arrival because, one, we should not be extending Obamacare for so long, right? These Obamacare subsidies, we need to get rid of it, right? It needs to be dismantled, to be honest with you, okay? So 3 years is dead on arrival for that reason and because it would line up with the 2028 election. And the last thing that we want is for the 2028 election to be about this, okay? That is not what Republicans want at all. There's no way that they can do anything outside of extending it for 2 years or just saying, you know what, we're just not going to extend it at all, right? Anything other than that is, they're just not going to do it, right? It's just a no-go.
Well, Leader Schumer offered a 1-year extension in the context of trying to end the Trump Republican shutdown.
Yeah, that's different. I'm talking about what you have now. Let's not go back to what's done in the past and what has not been extended. If you want to get something that has actually done, you need to do something that will have bipartisan.
You can ask me the question. You can ask me the question. I'll provide the answer.
Answer the question instead of going back.
I'll provide the answer. No. I'm providing an answer in order to provide context. Republicans have repeatedly refused to take yes for an answer. It was a very reasonable multi-year extension that was offered. It was a 1-year straight extension plus a multi-year process through a bipartisan commission to more permanently resolve the Affordable Care Act issue. So having that context is absolutely important, regardless of what you may think.
It's important context to make me realize that I don't think you want to get a deal done. I think this is something where you'd like to see the rates go higher and allow the Republicans to hang themselves with that. Is that the answer?
That's absolutely a ridiculous assertion. And really, shame on you.
3 years is not going to get passed, so what do you do?
Shame on you for saying that. Because we're fighting. It's not a partisan issue.
Shame on you for telling the truth. Because that's what it is, right? She's literally telling the truth. She said, this is a political game to you. You're trying to negotiate based off what you believe is going to hurt Republicans during the midterms and during elections. That's what you're trying to do. This is not serious. You're not seriously trying to solve the Affordable Care crisis, right? You're not trying to do that. This guy admitted on MSNBC that, Obamacare has not made healthcare affordable. So why would you keep throwing money at something that clearly is not working, right? But that's what they want to do. They want to keep throwing money at it to the point where it becomes so unaffordable that people just throw their hands up and say, the government should just take over the whole system, right? Let's just have a system like they got in the UK that they hate, by the way, right? Because that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. That is the whole point of Obamacare, right? The whole point of Obamacare is to destroy healthcare so much, to make it so unaffordable that essentially the people are like, you know what, might as well just have the government just pay for everybody's healthcare, right? Which means that everybody's going to have to pay way more taxes for people who smoke, obese folks, people who don't want to work out, who don't like to take care of themselves so that they can get health care, right? That is essentially the system that they want, right? And I'm just not down with that. And that's what these leftists need to understand. No, I don't want to pay for your health care. I don't want to pay for you to eat candy, snacks, to be fat, to not work out, to not take care of yourself, to smoke, to drink. I don't want to pay for your bad lifestyle choices. I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry. I don't want to pay for it, okay? Take care of yourself. If you want to pay less for healthcare, right? I mean, that's generally what people should be doing. Okay, take care of yourself. That's how you make healthcare more affordable for yourself personally. Now, again, obviously, there are people who end up having bad situations, right? Genetically speaking, you end up getting some type of disease or whatever. Yeah, that sucks. But there are ways to deal with that, right? Without having to go full socialized healthcare. We can deal with that. We can deal with those type of one-offs, those situations. But generally speaking, people, when it comes to healthcare and making healthcare affordable, personally, take care of yourself, right? Live a healthy life. Don't engage in these bad habits that are destructive towards your health. And generally speaking, you'll be fine, right?
Issue for us. In fact, the states that are most impacted as it relates to an Affordable Care Act tax credit expiration are all Republican states. We're talking about West Virginia, Wyoming, Alaska.
Not contesting that.
Yeah, you forced Obamacare on those states, right? Yeah, you forced Obamacare on red states. So, therefore, they will be impacted. But that doesn't mean that Obamacare is a good thing for those states, right? Those are two different things. The impact versus whether or not it's actually good for red states, two different things, two completely different things.
Mississippi, right? Tennessee. Over and over and over again, we can go through the list.
That's why you probably have some Republicans who would sign on if you guys could come up with something that actually looks like a bipartisan deal.
Listen, this is not a partisan fight for us. It's a patriotic fight. We're fighting for every constituent, even if Republicans aren't necessarily fighting for their own constituent. We want to find a bipartisan path forward. And that is what we've repeatedly indicated we want to do. Like, we want to sit down and have a reasonable discussion, find common ground to address this issue. Now, Republicans said in the House they were willing to deal with the Affordable Care Act tax credit issue after the government funding agreement was reached. Well, now the government shutdown is over, and there's still been no conversations with House Republican leaders.
Mike Johnson never said that. The leader never said that. You do have Republicans, though, who would agree with you on something if it was actually bipartisan in nature. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Actually, Mike Johnson actually did say that there was always a plan to specifically deal with the expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. In fact, he said that repeatedly. So I'm not sure what you're referencing. I think
their plan is something that looks more like an HCA, which I'm guessing you would say is dead on arrival, too. If you wanted to set up these health care plans that are funded instead of going through the ACA, I'm assuming you would say that's dead on arrival, too, because there have been Republicans who've put that forward. Am I wrong in thinking you would not go along with that?
What I'm saying is that what's in front of us is the immediate expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Republicans have had all year to deal with this issue, and they've refused to do it. So they're the ones who are not interested in finding a resolution to a health care crisis that they've created, including passing a bill that enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. And because of their policies, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing throughout America, including in rural parts of the country.
Which would why it would be nice to see a one-year extension so that none of these things happen immediately and give you all time to actually try and work on bipartisan situations, rather than a 3-year extension that basically kicks it down until the next administration is here. I think both sides need to come together and find some way of getting around this that's not necessarily saying, okay, we're going to spend $350 billion to extend these tax credits without having any way of trying to get at the real problems of what is causing higher premiums, what is causing this inflationary healthcare environment to begin with.
Yeah, what's interesting is that Republicans just spent trillions of dollars to provide their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. And in that same bill, cut Medicaid by the largest amount in the history of the country and also ripped $186 billion in nutritional assistance away from hungry children, seniors, and veterans, the largest cut to SNAP in American history. But somehow we can't find a dime to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, even for a year, because House Republican leaders have rejected a one-year extension. Rejected it. That's their position, not our position. That's their position.
So what I'm hearing, though, is that there is no middle ground. There is no bipartisanship. This is, at this point, us versus them, and we are not going to agree on anything. Am I?
No, that's absolutely not the case. We've repeatedly said we will sit down anytime, any place with any of our Republican colleagues. We'll even go back to the White House to sit down with President Trump. We've repeatedly offered to do it, but they've refused. Donald Trump spent more time on the golf course during the longest government shutdown in American history than he did talking to Democrats on Capitol Hill who represent half the country. He has no interest.
You know what I find to be so fascinating about how Democrats think that Republicans are obligated to work with them, right, on issues that Democrats caused, right? Like, again, the whole Obamacare tax credit thing is only an issue because Democrats voted to have these tax credits expire at the end of 2025, right? It's an issue because this is what they voted for. Republicans are not obligated to extend the Obamacare subsidies. They're not obligated to do it. Hakeem Jeffries is talking about they had all year to deal with this issue. Yeah. Not extending the tax credits is also dealing with it, right? Getting rid of it, say, hey, you know, we're not going to extend it. We're done with it. That's also dealing with it, right? That's how you deal with it. That's what they should do, to be honest with you. But I understand the political calculation behind doing an extension due to the fact that, yeah, people's premiums are going to rise as a result of them not getting their subsidy. But let's be real. The subsidy in and of itself, the fact that we continue to fund this Ponzi scheme is the reason why the premiums have exploded in the first place, right? Healthcare premiums have exploded since Obamacare went into effect. They've exploded. And they're going to continue to explode because the subsidies only make it more expensive. And this is why Republicans need to dismantle Obamacare, right? Stop subsidizing Obamacare and get back to a more free market oriented system. That's what they need to do. That's how you make healthcare more affordable. But that's going to take time and it's going to have growing pains. That's the reality of the situation. Nobody likes to come off the drugs, right? That's what the Obamacare subsidy is. A subsidy is a high. It's a high. It gives you a temporary high until you realize, oh, wait, this drug is actually killing me. This drug is not actually helping. You think it helps short term, but in the long term, it just makes the problem worse. That's Obamacare. The subsidies just make the problem worse. And the Democrats have no solution outside of, well, let's just continue to make the problem worse. Let's kick the can down the road. Kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road. That's what Democrats do. So, yeah, I don't know why Republicans would be inclined to have any type of bipartisan negotiation with these Democrats whose solutions have proven to be failures. Obamacare was a creation of the Democrats. That was Obama's thing. That was Jeffries' thing. That was the Democrats' thing. And Jeffries has admitted on national television multiple times, yeah, the system is broken. Well, I thought the Affordable Care Act was supposed to make healthcare affordable. Why didn't the Affordable Care Act make healthcare affordable? Because it was never designed to do that. It was a handout to big insurance companies, big doctors, big hospitals, big pharma. It was a handout to corporate America disguised as making healthcare more affordable, right? Corporatized socialism. That's what it is.
The Bible talks about money changers. Man, we got to throw the money changers out of the dadgum temple because that's exactly all they are. They just hold the dadgum cash. I mean, it's just a flow through, and it's like the mob. I mean, the Lord only takes 10% with tithe. These guys, they're multi-million-dollar profits paying these CEOs. I hate to sound like a liberal, but they are paying their CEOs millions of dollars, and it's based on their profits. So obviously, the more they steal from you and me, dadgummit, the more they get make money.
With what Obamacare has done is they have told the insurance companies that you got a blank check and we're going to subsidize everything, and the insurance companies raise their premiums and the subsidies go up. That system is it's completely backwards from
Absolutely.
A capitalist society that demands transparency and demands competition.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the lottery in Tennessee, everywhere else. I didn't vote for it. I'm not for gambling. I said, if you want to gamble, play the dadgum stock market. But out of pocket is the exact same amount, if you account for inflation, as it was before we did the lottery. All they did was raise everything up. They took more of the money. It's the same principle with insurance. The more we give them, the more and they'll take more. We give them $1, they take $1.25.
Actually trying to find a bipartisan solution, because the Republican approach, which is failing now, the American people know the country is moving in the wrong direction. The cost of living crisis is out of control. But the Republican approach since day one of this presidency has been my way or the highway. Everybody knows it. It's one of the reasons why Republicans were rejected decisively electorally in the elections early this month. Yet as Democrats, we continue to say we want to find a bipartisan path forward, but we need Republicans to operate in good faith in order for that to happen.
Minority Leader, do you think that, what do you think do you think you were successful in shutting down the government? Do you think you got what you wanted?
We didn't shut the government down. Donald Trump.
We didn't shut the government down. Oh, man. The gaslighting is crazy, man. It is absolutely insane. All of the problems that the Trump administration is currently dealing with are creations of the Democrat Party. When you talk about the cost of living issue, yeah, that's a creation of Democrat spending, doing COVID, and shutdowns. That is what we're dealing with. The illegal immigration problem. Yeah, Democrats created that problem. Now we're cleaning it up, right? We're having to clean up all of the issues that Democrats created. Healthcare, Obamacare, Democrat issue. The government shutdown, Democrat issue. The only thing Democrats are good at is causing confusion and chaos. And Republicans are stuck cleaning it up, and cleaning it up is messy, right? It's messy. And that's the frustrating part about all this, is that the American people, or at least some people, don't have the patience or the awareness to realize that, yeah, we're cleaning stuff up. And cleaning up the Democrat mess is messy, right? It takes time. It takes time.
And Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And in fact, the American people, prior to the shutdown, during the shutdown, and after the shutdown, know who was responsible for the government shutting down. And in fact, in the midst of it all, Republicans refused to even sit down and have a conversation about keeping health care affordable for everyday Americans. And so we're going to move past it. We have a Affordable Care Act tax credit expiration deadline that we need to tackle. We have a whole set of spending agreements that we need to find common ground on in advance of those agreements expiring in terms of the continuing resolution by the end of January. We just need partnership on the other side of the aisle. You know, what we have right now is that the Republicans are in the midst of an ongoing civil war. I mean, Donald Trump is fighting with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Mike Johnson and John Thune are fighting with each other. Corey Mills and Nancy Mace are fighting with each other.
Yeah, and the socialists are trying to take you out, right? Let's be real. The socialists are taking over the Democrat Party. So it's not just people on the right who are engaging in infighting, right? The infighting is also happening on the left, too. You had a primary challenge to worry about, Hakeem.
House Republicans are strongly disagreeing with Senate Republicans. The whole thing on the other side of the aisle is a mess. Meanwhile, as Democrats, we just want to fight for working class Americans.
Minority Leader Jeffries, I'm curious, later today, the mayor-elect of New York, Mondami, is going to be meeting with the president at the White House. Unclear whether we'll see it all publicly or not. I'm curious, have you spoken to him about what this meeting is going to be, how he should approach it, and if you have, or even haven't, what you're advising him?
Well, he and I had an opportunity to talk yesterday. I congratulated him on the announcement that Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch was going to remain at the helm of the NYPD. I think that's a great thing for the city of New York, for every single community, and it reinforces the mayor-elect's commitment to public safety for all New Yorkers. I think at the meeting, as he's publicly indicated, the two topics that will be discussed will be the affordability crisis that exists, in the United States of America. The cost of living is way too high. That, in fact, is the case in New York City and across the country, and public safety and how to move forward. And hopefully, President Trump is going to approach the meeting with a respect for the city that allowed his family and himself to achieve significant levels of success.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. When CNBC is calling out your BS, right? The liberal anchors are calling out your BS. When they're fed up, you know it's a problem. Democrats are not having a great week, okay? People are sick and tired of the games. Like I said, Democrats aren't good for anything except chaos and confusion. And that is the only thing they've been successful at this point, creating more chaos and confusion. And I think serious people are tired of it, right? They're sick of the games from these people. So we're going to see, right, what happens on this Obamacare thing. But Republicans should not be inclined to capitulate to Democrats and their ridiculous demands. Ultimately, today, the healthcare issue, it has to be cleaned up. And the way to clean it up is to dismantle Obamacare. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.